So I think you could look at statistics of any industry, of any situation, and realize that there's a lot of change that needs to be made, right? There almost always is a call for evening the playing field, right? And it's painfully obvious almost always, right? Like you start looking at it and you're like, oh my gosh, why isn't anybody doing anything about this? And when you try to go and even that playing field, when you try to sort of recognize it and be open about it, that inevitably you're going to find out that you can't, right? Like there is more to the story than the sort of simplistic view of, democratizing anything and evening the playing field for anything. And then when you begin to go down that road, you realize that there are incentives in at play that often that there's other people that are benefiting from it, right? So it's not only, and I think there's lots of social change that's going on right now. I think it's always you could sort of almost always say that, but you see various different actors, and it doesn't matter what field that you're in. You're probably looking at this. Some of you are in the academic game. Some of you are just looking at geopolitics, and you're like, why is this happening, right? Like your mind is just like very very much throbbing because you're like, well, this is not fair, or like this shouldn't be happening this way. And I just want you to really follow the money, follow the financial incentives, follow who is benefiting and why, right? It's not only that there's recognition of, that there's some groups that may not benefit from a certain system or a certain setup, but also look at, right, and it could be far better off. We know that there's often much better ways to do things, and the entire system could be far better off, right, where there is, and I'm saying like of any economic system where you have much more equal opportunity, there is a tremendous amount of benefit that could be made because all boats will rise, right? Like, um, this is just kind of a fundamental assumption within economics. If you start looking at it, you ensure like there's more trade, for example. You ensure that there is um, more equal opportunity, that just benefits everybody, because that means that in a population of buyers and sellers, when there's more buyers and sellers and it's not one-sided, doesn't matter what system it is, the more that everybody is going to benefit from that. But here's the thing, it's not only about sort of equalizing things that you have to worry about, but you also have to worry and think about who is benefiting, that small group that benefits at any given time. And they are going to fight it tremendously. They're going to ensure that they have more benefit. And you can bet on it, right? Like it might be even sort of a small thing where it's like office politics. It might even be sort of a small, you're looking at your own, organization, or a small, tiny blip where, you're looking at maybe your team sport that you're participating in, and you want to make sure that it's a lot more fair. And then you realize that, not everybody wants to participate in that sort of way. You have to follow the money. You have to look at how people are benefiting, small groups of people are benefiting, that will sort of fight that change. And once you realize that not everybody is well intentioned, not everybody is altruistic, not everybody wants to have an even playing field. Once you realize that, and you sort of position yourself that, yeah, the world is unfair, yes, the world does have these issues, right? And it goes from to the macro to, global politics to the micro, where it might be just, your small little group that you're looking at, where there's just a few individuals that, if there is somebody that's going to benefit, they will fight it, right? They will fight any sort of social change to equalize things and make it much more beneficial for everybody. And it's this battle almost always that a fairer system that's more equal, inevitably everybody benefits. But the challenge is that there is, the pot will be larger, but in an unfair system, the pot will be larger for a few people, right? So you have to balance as always, and it's a real challenge when you start looking at this, because yes, the pot will be smaller in general, but for a system that doesn't sort of function in the best possible way, there's in a system that's more, that doesn't work as well, you could have certain players that are far better off, and they're going to do my apologies, I got a cold. They're going to do everything that it takes to make sure that that system doesn't function in that way, because they're benefiting from a system that is not as good, right? Then they're benefiting in a system that is more, um, sort of harmful. This is kind of something that we know, um, but you have to work within it, right? Like, any particular system doesn't function at a optimal level. Like, there is, if you could imagine an optimal level, it's going to be anybody can come and go. There's, any unlimited numbers of buyers and sellers. Everybody feels, that their utility is maximized. All that kind of sort of, glorified version of an economic system. When you look at that, any combination of it, that is a utopia that doesn't exist. And the more reality is that you're within a system in which one or two or just a few people benefit, a few players benefit, and they will fight it to ensure that they always have that benefit, right? And that's where you have to take a step back and say, um, how do I work within this imperfect system, right? And from my perspective, it is recognizing that it's very unlikely to change. There's two ways that you can do, right, to deal with that. It's very unlikely to change. You, so one side of it is learning how to adapt, right? That is where you start saying, I'm going to do the best I possibly can. I am doing okay, right? Like, I, reframe a lot of things. But then on the other side, the long term is that constant pressure, right? Like, just constant pressure that you're working towards a more fair, equal system always, right? And it's that long term pressure that, yeah, it might not work in the temporary, but it's the long-term pressure that you're putting on a system that gradually moves things towards, more fair. Um, and I know that that's often a very rosy picture of things. I understand that. I'm well aware of that. But that's often what you have to do. And there's going to be moments, years, maybe even decades, where things regress, and it doesn't get as fair. And that's why you just have to keep those rosy glasses and keep pushing, keep moving forward, keep looking for those little breaks that happen that changes it so that it's a much more fair and prosperous system. I know it can be overwhelming, um, but these kind of changes are slow, they're painful, and the best thing that you could do is adjust in the near term so that you don't internalize everything. And in the long term, just keep that slow pressure of I'm just taking one little step at a time until something cracks. And that's it. That's it at the end of the day. All right, take care. Have a wonderful day.